Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre. This is Mike Campbell, and with me,
Eric Lee,
and
Liz Williams.
And tonight we are paying an homage to episode number 26 from many, many moons ago. As Liz pointed out, 50-some episodes ago, maybe not quite 50, but many episodes ago, where we talked about the best sequels that the horror community has ever generated, ever. Tonight, we're going to look at the flip side, the dark, grisly, mutated cousin of the best sequel, the
worst sequels ever. And there were so many of them to pick from.
Because, normally...
There are a lot.
Yes. Well, oh my God. Yeah. There's, pretty much any horror movie that's ever made even a dime, those money grubbers at Hollywood go right back at it, and they do everything they can to re-regurgitate that exact same trope.
And a lot of the times when they get selected, it's because they are very inexpensive to make in the first place. The ones that are most egregiously bad are the ones that, they risk very little.
Right.
And they don't need to get a huge audience. Friday the 13th does not require to break the $50 million marker to turn a profit.
No, but I do have a couple examples of two examples of that financial equation.
I do too.
One where it cost a lot of money and made no money, and one where it didn't cost any money and made a ton of money.
Oh, unfortunate, because that's just going to encourage bad behavior. That's called enabling.
That's right. And Hollywood loves to enable horror writers and directors.
Yeah. So, Liz, I know that you dove in. We were just talking about this, but some franchises have had a big string of sequels. What are the by the numbers? What have we got for sequels?
Harper's.
Friday the 13th and Halloween both have 11, as long as we're counting the reboots of Halloween. So Rob Zombie's two outings there are included in this 11. Nightmare on Elm Street has 8. And then Wrong Turn, which we always joke, has like 45, only has 6, but they're about to make the 7th. It'll come out next year. So they're coming up on you, Nightmare on Elm Street. Watch out for Wrong Turn.
I think Puppet Master has 13 or something like that. It's an obscenely high number.
How many does is it the Doll Maker? Doll Maker. How many does Doll Maker have?
Doll Maker's a short film, isn't it?
No. Dolls? No. What's there's another full moon doll thing.
Oh man.
The
Dolls, that was the one that
it's not the Wishmaster. It's not the Doll Maker.
But there's like probably 2 or 3 too many Wishmasters.
Yes, there's a couple Wishmasters.
3 or 4 too many Child's Plays.
I think there's 6 Witchboards.
It's a bad habit that
Witchboard. There it is, an oldie.
Yeah.
I swear to God, there's at least 6 Witchboards.
Well, and they seem, I know a lot of action movies and some comedies have sequels, but horror, it's kind of like one of the things that really drives me crazy about the horror industry is if one makes a dime for being cool and something creative and something new, it really is like 6 months later where there's number 2 and then they're going to put out number 3. And I think that diluting some of the franchises is what kind of makes them, it's not on my list tonight, but like Hostel, one of my favorite movies. Then they did Hostel 2. It's not terrible, but now it dilutes the original that if it had never had a sequel, I think would have gotten more respect. So
Eric and I are
horror movies seem to do that more than anybody else.
We are still looking for a copy of The Ruins 2, The Mexican Ruins.
Yes, and what's the name of our director buddy who
Carter Smith.
Yeah.
Yes, Carter Smith.
Carter, we know that you actually do listen to this because we gave you a shout out and you were very happy with us. And
even though he has not seen The Ruins 2, he said he was looking for a copy. So either send a copy to us or send a copy to Carter.
Help us and Carter out.
Yes.
It is apparently a very sloppy redo of his production. It's probably not recognizable actually as The Ruins.
Probably
but we won't. We
not.
don't know because we can't find it.
Yeah.
So
I'm putting it on my to-do list when I go to Movie Madness next time, and I'm going to see if they have The Ruins too. And if they don't, they usually take it as a challenge.
yeah, Movie Madness.
Nice.
Go get them. I think when I started going through this process, I realized that I avoid like the plague watching movies that are usually franchises are not usually my shtick.
Agreed.
And if I know that they're going to be, I don't want to subject myself to. I haven't seen most of the Halloween sequels, and I haven't seen
What?
I've seen
I haven't either.
1, 2, 3, and H2O, and the most current one, and
Right.
I passed on the other ones. I'm just not interested,
Right.
Because it's unoriginal. A lot of the stuff it's like rinse and repeat, and I don't want rinse and repeat. And the like Friday the 13th, I've seen 1, 2, 3, and 10.
Now, have you ever seen Saving Private Ryan 2?
It's like the zombification of Normandy.
There's a reason for that.
Right. But it didn't stop, and I'll get to a couple of the big, couple of them in mine. One of them's my alternate, but one of my primary ones takes on a classic, and boy, shits all over it. So, I think this
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. I mean, that's the things we're
It's the
talking about
worst.
terrible, and
Yeah.
it's not enjoyably terrible either. It's one of those things where it's like, I can't believe you guys did this.
Normally we keep this podcast pretty highbrow, pretty positive. We don't focus on the negative,
Right.
And although tonight it's all about shitting all over everything.
Yeah, I also have the tendency to seem like I glow on every movie that I see, but it also tends to be that I will go to movies that I hear are pretty good or have interesting premises or good directors or good actors. And so some of the ones that I'm picking here actually have good actors or good directors, and they failed anyways.
Eric's getting dark and dark.
All right, bring it.
Okay,
So wait, before we get started though, Eric,
Yeah.
you said you did a little bit of extra research and you looked back at episode 26.
Yeah.
And you looked at what the best sequels were, and since that was like 50 episodes ago.
This is the Pleistocene era of the Scariest Things. This is pre-Liz Scariest Things.
I know, huh?
This is before we evolved.
This is actually before we actually invested in actual sound equipment. So, but we actually had a collision, and this was before either of us would actually do backups, just in case. So, although Mike still does, and I have to do backups because I want to give the audience the full value.
I've kept
for the listening.
true to the format that we agreed upon 2 years ago.
And it also limits you. You only have to watch 3 movies.
That's right.
But I did Bride of Frankenstein, Dawn of the Dead,
Yep.
New Nightmare,
Yep.
and Conjuring 2.
All right.
You did Phantasm 2,
Yeah.
Paranormal Activity 2,
Yeah.
I am with you on that one.
a fun one here, Destroy All Monsters,
Yeah.
and you also did Conjuring 2. So we that's where we collided on our number ones. Not coincidentally, we both saw it together, and afterwards we went, "Oh wow, that was great."
yeah.
So
All right. That's a solid list.
passed over some other classics because they are probably not truly, horror. Aliens, Terminator 2,
Halloween 2. Halloween 2 is solid.
No, but that's
Yeah.
that is a true horror movie.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
And what was the other one that touched on? Doesn't matter. If you
history.
want to check
Don't
out
keep using up bad
recommendations,
ones for your examples because you might.
go back and check out our ancient recording for 26, and you can hear us expound on those.
It's available at the National Archives, Library of Congress.
AFI has taken on Scariest Things, gold-plated.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mike, you want to start?
Sure. I'm going to start with a little film. I know Eric hasn't seen the original or the sequel, This is a film called Carrie 2, The Rage. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Kidding. If you do follow the podcast, you know that Eric still has not seen Carrie. So, no, I'm not talking about Carrie 2, The Rage.
But I've heard it's terrible.
That's supposed
But in order to see it,
didn't
I've
even know
only
they
heard
made
about
one.
it because I haven't seen either of them.
I'm guessing it's terrible. I've not seen it either. Although I have seen the Brian De Palma, the original version of Carrie. I have seen that.
No, there you go. But who hasn't? I mean, come on.
Except for Eric.
Except for Eric. No, I am going to talk a little bit about a film from, I believe this was, I didn't even write down the year. Yeah, 1989. This is Friday the 13th, Part 7.
Okay.
Jason Takes Manhattan.
Ooh.
And this, I'm going to put this in the category of it's so bad it's good. Because this is a truly terrible film that I reviewed just recently, in fact, about 2 months ago on scariestthings.com, 1T. So you can go check out the full review. It essentially involves a group of high school kids who have recently graduated, and for their graduation, they have been granted a several-week-long cruise to New York City.
Okay.
Who does a cruise to Hudson Bay or not
Where are they
Hudson? The
from?
Hudson River.
The weird thing is the whole thing was shot in Vancouver, Canada, save for some of the latter shots in the film. So it looks like they start in Vancouver, and so I'm guessing they go by way of the Panama Canal.
Or no, it would be the Erie Canal.
I guess you could have gone by the way of the Erie Canal, sure.
Yeah.
But the film starts with, and this is part of the reason I love the film is because it's so ridiculous. It starts with a young couple out on Crystal Lake, and they have decided to moor their boat for the evening for a little romance. The guy drops the anchor, and the anchor drags across the bottom of the lake, inadvertently catching a massive electrical line, like a transmission line, punctures the transmission line, and guess who just happens to be chained up, buried at the bottom of the lake? Jason Voorhees.
Right.
And so the anchor drags the punctured transmission line over to Jason and electrifies him.
Well, which was I think it was Jason's or Friday the 13th Part 6 where he gets lightning bolt reactivates him. So he's kind of the Frankenstein. It's just to get the juice.
Is this one before or after? Didn't he go to space too?
That's Jason X.
Yeah, that's number
okay.
10. That was 3 later, which is also terrible. I will say.
Most of these are terrible. I mean, by definition, a lot of these fit these so bad it's enjoyable, but I've never really gotten into them.
The thing that's great about this film is, well, so many things. Most importantly, they get to Manhattan like in the last 5 minutes of the film, which is kind of a put on. The other thing that's great about it is the initial marketing campaign featured T-shirts and stickers and posters with Jason Voorhees slashing through the iconic "I Love New York" logo. And apparently the New York Tourism Committee was like, yeah, we're not really cool with that. And they actually filed a complaint with Paramount Pictures, and Paramount eventually dropped that.
Did they threaten to pull the movie from all of the New York cinemas?
I don't know about that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. The budget for this film was around $5.5 million. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This one actually grossed 14.3. It was the last of the Friday the 13th that was done under the Paramount Pictures moniker, because right after that, New Line Cinema picked up all the subsequent installments to the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, so Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, that's all New Line. Rotten Tomatoes gave this, and I think I'm going to say this ahead of time. I don't want to tease out too much, but I think all of my films had a score on Rotten Tomatoes of less than 8%.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
One reviewer said, satirical potential is rife, to be sure, with Jason coming to the biggest cities only to have his mere homicidal monstrousness dwarfed by the real-life horrors of drugs, rape, homelessness, disease, despair, and all-around urban decay. All of it unrealized in a script as witless and willfully imbecilic as any of the preceding 7.
Wow. Yeah. No, I think this one's got the one where there's him and the boxing kid, right? Where
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is one of the notoriously dumbest kills on Friday the 13th history.
He also does take there is a woman in a sauna, and you can imagine what I'm describing here, woman in a sauna in the late 80s. He picks up one of the hot sauna rocks and jams it through her torso. Because why not?
Right. It's, yes. I think that Friday the 13th has always been about creative killing.
Yeah.
It's never been about character development. It's never been about plot. It's always like, what's he going to do next? And what's the best kill that he's done?
Exactly. Yeah.
That is what, and $13 million on a $5 million budget says that there's plenty of people who want to see it.
That's right. All right, Liz, what do you got for your number 3 on your terrible trio list of the worst sequels of all time?
Okay, this one is, I'm going to get personal on it because I talked about the movie that this is the sequel to being one of my favorite movies in our previous episode, number 71. And this is The Strangers Pray at Night that came out in 2018. So this is directed by Johan Roberts, and this sequel was made 10 years after The Strangers. I don't know why. It stars, I don't think that the world was like jonesing for a Strangers sequel, but maybe they were. It stars Christina Hendricks and Martin Henderson, who are both really good actors and really good looking,
Christina Hendricks,
as a couple who go to this like trailer park vacation area around like a lake that one of their aunts owns. And that's where the strangers are going to be home invading. They're at a trailer park now. They've downgraded from vacation homes in the woods to vacation trailer parks. But we have the same trope as the original Strangers. So you get a knock at the door and she asks if Tamara's home. So that's how we know we're dealing with the same people.
Was it Tamara the last
time? Tamara.
Yeah.
It was Tamara the last time, and they're still wearing the same masks.
If it ain't broke, don't
they
fix
come
it.
out of the trailer, and there's some roadside murder. So I don't know why they made this movie. I went and saw it in the theater when it came out, and it was terrible. One thing, though, that I thought was kind of weird. So the actor who played the man in the mask or the man in the burlap sack in the original film is a guy named Kip Weeks. And he was really into being that character. He goes to conventions. He does everything talking about being this character. And I had the opportunity to screen a documentary that was called The Man in the Mask for a film festival that was about him trying to revive this character.
What?
It was not selected for the festival, but he didn't get picked. He is not the Man in the Mask in this sequel.
Oh, man.
So I just thought that was kind of crazy.
Crestfallen.
Yeah, and well, apparently made a difference. Because, so Liz, you loved the first one.
I do.
And it sounds, the premise is similar this time out. Where did it fail?
Oh, man. It's just cheesy. We didn't need another one. There's no more scares. Why were they waiting 10 years until they went to the next place? I don't know.
Don't they give like a little bit of exposition too around, is that right?
Not really.
Okay.
At the end of the original, when they said like, why are you doing this? Because you were home and answered the door.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's why not? So I guess they changed.
Big difference there.
Big difference. So this one is a worse sequel because for me, it just was not called for. It wasn't a year after where it was a money grab. It was 10 years later. So I can't.
It sounds like they were lazy.
Yeah, I can't figure out the motivation for making this one. Director, writer, production company. I can't figure out anybody's. So that is taking one of my favorite movies, putting a sequel on it that is terrible. And I think that kind of brings down the original. Shame. Exactly.
Yeah. I will say the original is pretty innovative and pretty creative, and it's in part due to the fact that you don't get a lot of exposition, which makes it all the more unnerving that you have no idea why these people are doing this or why they're dressed like that. But I mean, invariably, if you're going to do a sequel, then you need to start to peel back some of those layers and at least gives people a glimpse into, because if you're just doing the exact same thing again, it's not really, it's not anything. It's just a carbon copy of the original.
Yeah,
exactly. Or they could have, I guess, changed up the characters a little bit and just made a totally different home invasion movie.
Right.
They didn't need to bring these characters back, I don't think.
Right.
It sounds like it's a less interesting reboot.
A little bit. Yeah, it has some characteristics of a reboot, but they do say it's 10 years after the original events of The Strangers. So
what have they been doing in the 10 years in between?
Sense. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
That burlap sack's getting kind of manky.
Yep.
All right, Eric, what do you got? What do you got for
mine.
your number 3 on your terrible trio list?
As I was saying before, I tend to avoid the franchisey type things, and I also wanted to pick something that was one of the greatest disparities between the quality of the original and the quality of the sequel. And this is a sequel to Jaws, right?
What?
Now, Jaws 4 gets a lot of shit because I think that's a
They
classic.
had 4?
Yeah. They had 4, and Jaws: The Revenge was starring Michael Caine. Usually goes on to a lot of the worst movies of all time. I knew it was a terrible movie, and I'm not about to go see it and support it. What I have seen though,
you knew it at the time.
I didn't know it at the time because I think
you were that highfalutin in the 1980s.
I didn't know it was out until actually after Roger Ebert saw it, and then he explained how terrible it was, and then I went, okay, I don't need to see it.
Have you seen it since?
No, that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen.
Okay.
I can't review Jaws 4 because I haven't seen it, and I don't really want to see it if it's that bad. But I did see Jaws 3 in 3D, which is. Oh my Lord!
With Dennis Quaid,
Hell and Louis Gossett Jr. and Leah Thompson. It has capable actors. It had a $20 million budget in 1985. It had a big budget, and that famously Steven Spielberg didn't show Bruce the shark because it had mechanical problems, and so it was one of the movies that everyone points to and goes, "See, you don't have to show the monster because if you reveal the monster, it's too much." And in which case, for that, it really worked for that movie, and it also helped that you had an amazing script and fantastic actors, a wonderful storyline, protagonist forward. You care about these characters, and the shark is the environment. It's not the shark is the primary thing,
right? Do you know Bruce ended up in a junkyard?
Oh,
yeah, true story. There was a great piece. Sorry to digress here, but this is a worthy digression. Yeah. There was a great piece on NPR last week about a writer who tracked down, because all the other Bruces were destroyed, and they knew that there was one still left, and it was basically a junk dealer who ended up with Bruce. And then he threw it on the top of a shed where it sat for like 40 years.
Wow.
And they found it, and he was able to track it down in Idaho, of all places. It ended up in Idaho.
Whoa.
They tracked it down.
Handy, actually, Idaho, because it's dry. So
That's right. That's right. And they were able to basically recreate Bruce, the original Bruce.
Hey, and it probably still has problems moving his mouth.
Right.
Well, in this case, they show way too much of the shark. Now, have you guys seen Jaws 3 in 3D?
Hell yeah.
I haven't even seen Jaws 2, and I didn't even know there was a 3.
Okay, Jaws 3.
Dennis Quaid.
there's a famous moment, and it's an easy YouTube watch, right? Where it's in the climax of the movie, and the shark comes busting through the glass, but the shark doesn't move. It's an inert shark, and then it hits, and the 3D effects are so bad. Well, when you see it in 2D, it's abysmally bad. It's like I think your average 8th grader could come up with an animation like what they pulled off. There has been some. I don't know if you ever watched the Stuckman movie reviews, but they did a fun thing where they actually put the 3D glasses on. They say that the 3D effects are pretty solid, but when you see the 2D conversion, it just looks like someone put a sticker on your television. It's really, and the shark moves about, a walking pace, and everybody's screaming, and then it's like getting a little bit closer, and they show it, and then they're screaming again, and it comes a little bit closer, and the tail doesn't move, the fins don't move, the mouth opens sort of slightly as it comes crashing through. And it keeps a straight trajectory as if it doesn't that doesn't feel the impact at all. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And that's the level of bad special effects.
But it is at a theme park.
Yeah, it is at SeaWorld.
Which is kind of a piranha ripoff.
Yeah. And actually I think it's sort of like, or a prequel to Jurassic Park.
Right.
It's where it's like,
which is
no, there's a monster loose in the park and it's eating everybody.
Which is also a piranha ripoff.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Because genetic tinkering.
That's right.
There's no genetic tinkering with these sharks. There's a shark that sneaks in, a young great white shark sneaks in, eats a diver, and then they find this great white shark in the Adventureland sort of section of that. They're doing like what do you call it? Water skiing tricks, right? And they capture it and they try. It's like, oh, we've got a show. We have something that's really appealing. And then the great white dies, and then the mama comes, and this is like a 50-foot shark. It's ridiculous sized, but the acting is. There are no good characters. The cinematography is awful. It is really hard to tell that there's people in scuba suits and you can't tell who's who.
Now, who directed Jaws 3 in 3D?
This is. I have this written down.
Uh-oh. And did he or she do other stuff?
Let's see. This is. It's a guy named Shelton or something like that. He didn't do a whole lot else.
John Alves.
John Alves.
John
Okay.
Alves.
I was way off.
That's our man.
And I haven't heard of him since. What else has he done?
He did production on Close Encounters, no big deal. He did production on Escape from New York, no big deal. He did production on Jaws 2, no big deal.
But was he the director?
No, he just did production.
Yeah, no, this guy can't direct.
But he did do a bunch of Spielberg stuff. He did Sugarland Express. Oh my gosh! So he's kind of legit.
The editing was awful. It was like bad cuts.
He was the director, not the editor.
Yeah.
Let's lay off him a little.
Well,
Come on.
You can lay some lumber on this shitty editor. This was a terrible movie. A lot of people can watch it for laughs, but it also gets dull. It's just like and apparently there was also a better script out there that helped flesh out some character development, but they decided to jam in some more inert shark action to try and jazz things up. But it was like they had $20 million, and I don't see where they put the money because the effects are awful.
I think they put it up Dennis Quaid's nose.
I think Dennis Quaid might have. I think he was like 20 years old at this time. This was 1983.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Jaws 3 in 3D, because I love Jaws so much. This one really, like Liz. This was a big bummer, but there is a drastic difference between these two. They're totally different kinds of stories. The structure is different. Awful. Awful movie.
Look for Eric's review on scariestthings.com very soon.
All right, Mike, we're back to you. What's your number 2?
All right, my number 2. Speaking of loving the first one so much, and then when you get to this, you go, what the what? This was the 2017 supernatural psychological horror film directed by F. Javier Gutierrez. I'm guessing the F stands for failure. This is Rings 3, also known as Ring Rebirth. which doesn't
What?
make any sense at all.
It's like it's random name generator, right?
Right.
It's like the Ring, the Revenge, or
The
Ring,
revenge,
the
the
Awakening.
revengeing. This, of course, is the third installment in the Ring series, following the previous installments: The Ring from 2002, and then The Ring 2 from 2005. These, of course, were based on the original Ring from the 1990s. As I was talking about, this did crazy well. It had a $25 million budget because it had the guy from oh geez, I can't even think of the TV show on CBS with all the nerds and geeks.
Freaks and Geeks.
No, the current show. I think
Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory. Thank you. It had the guy from Big Bang Theory who was also in. He was in Roseanne as well. The son.
Is he a draw, Mike?
Johnny Galecki.
Johnny Galecki. Yes, thank you. He is in it. He plays a very erudite professor who discovers the Ring VHS tape because he is a collector of cool and vintage things. The film starts on an airplane where a young gentleman discloses that he has watched the videotape and he is coming while he is on the airplane, he is coming to the end of the 7 days. The film is super flat. The music is super boring. The characters are paper thin as hell. No one can act, and it's just flat. It is the flattest, most boring, uninteresting film. And while you do see Samara, like in the first scene, kind of the hype scene at the very, very beginning of the film, you don't see her again for like 40 minutes into the film. And that's the thing is, I remember watching the original Ring is they cut the original, well, rather the U.S. version of the Ring with Naomi Watts is cut so tight that beginning creates so much tension around this freaking VHS tape that it really is panic-inducing.
And they do set up, I think, in the original Ring, moments to relieve some of the pressure through something dreadful. It's not really jump scary, but they do. They set up and they pay off. But it's like it's sort of a reset that keeps getting higher and higher and higher until the end. Towards the end of the movie, when Samara crawls out of the television set and everybody runs for the exits. Right. This is
right. The original is very good, and this is just so flat and so boring and so not scary. Paramount, apparently, again, our friends at Paramount who gave us Friday the 13th Part 7.
Shame.
They originally set the film for a November 2015 release, but the film was pulled from schedule. And they scheduled it for an April 2016 release, but then they thought, it's gonna conflict with the Paranormal Activity series.
Oh, running scared. These guys.
And then they went back again, and they were looking at a late 2016, but that was apparently in conflict with Ouija, Origin of Evil.
It can't. Yeah, if you can't compete with Ouija, you're in shit shape.
That one was an example of the sequel being better than the original.
Right.
This is a total lack of confidence from the production company.
So basically, like almost 3 years later is when it ultimately got released. Rotten Tomatoes.
Did it go into the theaters or straight
it
to?
Did.
VOD?
Sorry, that's what I was saying. The film had an original budget of $25 million, and it grossed $83 million.
Oh man, yeah.
When it finally opened in February of 2017, it was the number 2. I don't know what the number 1 was. It was the number 2 grossing film of that month. Rotten Tomatoes, however, gave it an 8%, an average rating of 3 out of 10, and audiences at Cinema Score gave it an average grade of C-. Although I think C- is
that's generous. It got a Metascore of 25. Ooh, stinker.
Yeah, C- is pretty generous. C- is like, well, you kind kind of tried a little bit, and maybe you just don't understand the subject matter.
Yeah. As opposed to boring.
As opposed to you get an F, you didn't study at all, and you don't know what's happening in this class. Yeah, it's a straight up F. It's just lazy as hell. I mean, and I think maybe more to the point, and this to me is sort of the ultimate. It's sort of the. I mean, it's the ultimate indication of Hollywood not stopping, taking a deep breath, walking away from the source material, and saying, you know what? Maybe in this case, we'll leave well enough alone because we have this really great film. There's no reason to drag this out any further. I know you guys need money, and I know times are hard, but let's stop, take a breath, and not produce more crap in the same vein under the same moniker.
Here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, if they put 25 million in and it made 83 million, they will not learn the lessons that they need to learn from this film.
No, people, you are the enablers.
Yeah,
you're encouraging bad sequels.
2016. I don't remember this at all.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You can, I think you can stream it now on a
No,
bunch of.
Take our word for it. You don't want to.
Yes. All right, Liz, what do you got for your number 2?
Okay, so now I'm going in a movie that might not just be a really bad sequel. It's sometimes called one of the worst movies ever made. The director of the original film that this was the sequel to said this was as bad as seeing a traffic accident in the street. It was horrible. It's just a stupid mess made by a dumb guy. This dumb guy is an Oscar or Academy Award nominated director of Deliverance and Hope and Glory. This is 1977's Exorcist 2.
Oh, there you go.
Directed by John Borman. So I have never made it all the way through this movie because it is so boring. I think I've seen about 35 minutes of it. So
this is your review of the first 35 minutes of Exorcist 2.
The first 35 minutes. Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 16, so it did a little bit better than
8.
The Ring Part 3. But
Liz,
so in this one,
Liz,
Reagan
I own
O'Neill.
it. I own this one. I'll send it to you.
Oh, no, thank you.
We'll do a double feature with Carrie.
Oh, my gosh. So in this one, Reagan O'Neill is living in New York, working with this therapist who is kind of doing like a hypnotism thing called the synchronizer to help her relive her trauma and deal with what happened to her when she was possessed by a demon.
Sounds like a
Cut
great
to
idea.
Africa. We've got swarms of locusts. We've got demon possession over there. And somehow these two are tied together. I don't know how they're tied together because I never made it that long because it's one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. I think the first 10 minutes are Reagan sitting in a chair with like electrodes on her temples, slowly answering questions like a lie detector test. So it's not just me who thinks this is boring and terrible. William Friedkin also said it was just a stupid mess made by a dumb guy. So I don't know what else.
Well, tell us what you really think, Friedkin.
I know, huh? No one from the original film, except for some of the actors, was involved in the making of it. So William Blatty had nothing to do with writing it. William Friedkin obviously had nothing to do with directing it. Another reason why I can't stand this one, besides it being so boring, is I love the original Exorcist, obviously, but Exorcist 3 is one of my favorite horror movies.
Yeah, it's kind of a shit sandwich with 2 really good pieces of bread.
It really is. It
Right?
really is. It is the middle of the shit sandwich. So skip Exorcist 2.
Go straight to Exorcist 3.
3,
Which is scary as all hell.
Phenomenal, scary film. It's a standalone. It helps to know a little bit about The Exorcist, but I think it's a standalone film. So not much more to say about Exorcist 2 since I've never made it all the way through, but
I reviewed it on the scariestthings.com.
Did you?
I did. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars.
Oh, you're being generous.
But
he was generous.
the reason I was generous, I was just looking at the review, and I said, well, I can't disagree that it's a pile of junk. There's something about the aesthetic of Exorcist 2, The Heretic, that hit the spot, whether it was the weird use of green screen, the funky soundstage sets, or the groovy In Search of Pseudoscience. This film really captured an era that's not all that bad. But unless you're an Exorcist completist, you can probably forgo viewing this 70s pile o' junk.
I think Mike gives an extra half a star for every movie just if it was from the 1970s.
Unless you really want to see it, we won't judge.
Except for Liz. Liz will judge you.
Or watch the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, watch the first 30 minutes. Yeah.
And then wakey at the 30-minute mark, right?
Yeah, because if you really do want to get the groovy 1970s aesthetic, you get it in spades in the first 30 minutes.
Yep.
All you need.
Yep. All right, Eric, what do you got for your number 2?
All right. As a rule of thumb, avoid sequel movies with revenge in the title. So Jaws 4, The Revenge, we talked a little bit about. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, also not very good.
Carrie 2, The Revenge.
And mine is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
The worst.
This is, by almost all accounts, the worst Nightmare on Elm Street film to actually.
And there's some bad ones.
And this one's like, you go even odd with with how good these things tend to end up. And this one is this one's gathering flies pretty bad. It is actually pretty amazing that they ever got a third movie after this stinker. I think, but problem was I think that actually did reasonably well in the theaters. Cost only $3 million. It grossed $29 million. So that's why we got Dream Warriors. But they were smart enough to bring Wes Craven back.
That's a good return on your investment, man.
So yeah, I mean this is classically why you make cheap, shitty sequels, because doesn't matter, you're gonna make money on them. And this was when you were asking me the director for Jaws 3.
Yes.
I was actually thinking of this director, Jack Shoulder, who actually has had some, halfway decent movies in his repertoire, but this one,
Jack Shoulder sounds like a euphemism or a nom de plume.
Yeah, this is like, I got to get out of the way of this.
I'm not using my real name.
It's poorly acted. It's got bad effects. It's got bad editing. It's got clumsy homosexual subtext, and most egregiously bad, it's boring.
Wait, what was the homosexual subtext?
Oh my God! It's layered on thick.
Like,
oh, Mike, yeah.
Freddie trying to make out with him at the pool and everything.
Oh, there's a gay bar scene where the kid goes in and sees his evil phys ed teacher there.
That's right.
And then there's a shower scene where the
it's more
teacher gets
homoerotic.
But poorly. But there's also some things where nominally this kid is actually the actor is Patton. What's his first name? Oh man, of course I.
While you're looking for
Vince
first
Patton.
name, there's been a recent documentary about this.
Yeah, Mark Patton.
About this guy, about this movie, and about how exactly what Eric's saying, kind of cast a horrible shadow over this whole thing.
Yeah,
but that's not what made it bad.
No, part of the problem is Mark Patton is not a good actor, but he was also a young gay actor. The screenwriter apparently claimed he didn't know, but he put him in really awkward positions. Not only he had a girlfriend, but he also had a best buddy who he would sort of jump on top of and wrestle with, and his shorts get pulled down and showing his butt, kind of things like.
Get ready to wrestle.
Oh, and it's just there's so many
wrestle.
And it did everything just sort of to needle at this actor. And at the time he goes, "Oh no, there's no gay subtext here." And then later on he had said, "Yeah, I kind of did it just to get on him."
Right.
And it was horrible for Patton's career. He didn't do anything of note after this. and he was the star, right? But it also suffered in that Freddy Krueger really was acting as a proxy.
Right.
He didn't. He had inhabited, Jesse, the Mark Patton's character, and so he would, all of a sudden Mark or Jesse would kill somebody, or Freddy would kill somebody, and then it would switch back, and it's Jesse holding the glove and covered in blood.
Oh, right.
And it's like, this is it's, none of it lacked all of the humor that the Nightmare series is known for. So Robert Englund didn't put on his quippy Freddy. And that came into effect really in the third movie, where all of a sudden they started writing him more as, it's like people are seeing the movie for Freddy. They're not seeing it for the protagonist.
Right.
But it had really annoying parents. It's like some of the worst example of parents who don't get it, and frustrating. A really frustrating movie, and it's dull, and the kills are uninteresting, and and it's just it just makes you uneasy. The whole particularly in this kind of woke age, you kind of go, I can't believe they got away with this kind of crap, And I mean, good for the franchise that it managed to get past this one, but this one could have, you release something like this now, it's a death knell. You can't do this kind of stuff now. It's just
Right.
It's
Okay,
offensive on so many levels.
Now I want to rewatch it.
Oh no, it's so bad.
It's really both boring and offensive. So if you watch it, you asked for it. Freddy's Revenge, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Watch it at your own risk.
Yes. All right. I saved the best, the worst, the best worst, the worst best for the last. This film has an approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes of 0%.
Okay, I think I know what this one might be.
You have no idea. Well, take a guess. Take a guess, smart guy. Let's see.
Come on. Is this Blair Witch,
Nope.
Blair Witch sequel? No?
Nope.
Okay.
Shh, be quiet, Eric. Don't say that.
Candyman. No, this is a film that came out in 1980. 87. This is Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 2. This, of course, follows one of my all-time favorite movies.
Camp classic.
Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is really such a great film from soup to nuts. This film is so terrible on so many different levels, but probably the most egregious thing, which has not been endemic to any of the films we've talked about tonight. The really egregious thing was they spent, I think they were budgeted for $100,000, and the studio, I'm using studio in air quotes, all the filmmakers, the actors said they were paid dismal amounts of money, and then when they sort of started spitballing some ideas around it, the director said, well, this is what I need, and they said, no, we're not doing that. We own the rights to the original, so what you're going to do is you're going to lift about a half hour out of the original, and it's just going to be all flashback sequences.
Oh no, this is like the worst thing that happens in television.
And they literally lifted, so it's probably a 75-minute film, and they lifted about a half hour of the film and just of the original film and just dropped it into this film. The director apparently he demanded that they reshoot it, but the studio, again, I'm using that in air quotes, the studio said, dude, we ain't got no money. You got to deal with what you got. They even also used obviously they used the original music from the film. The film, if you've seen the original Silent Night, Deadly Night, it involves a little boy whose parents are killed on Christmas Eve, and he's sent off to an orphanage. Of course, in the film, you'll if you remember having seen the original, the little boy who gets sent off to the orphanage had a little brother who was a baby. So he and the little brother get sent to the orphanage. The original film has zero focus on the little brother. The little brother, of course, in this case, comes back to kill Mother Superior because she is naughty.
But now, so did they splice like different actors in because they've lifted half the movie from? Is it the same actor returning as the little brother in a Santa suit? And can you tell?
No. This is obviously they. I can't remember how far. Like they project like 10 years into the future or something like that.
But can you see the sloppy, or is the edit sloppy enough that you can tell when?
It just doesn't match up. It doesn't match up at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Continuity be damned.
Yes, continuity be damned. There is, however, and if you are familiar with the greatness of the campy original, and there is a little bit of camp in Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. If you go Google Garbage Day, there's a great scene. That is the one small redeeming quality. In the original, of course, Billy, the Santa trying to take revenge on the evil nuns, has his go-to catchphrase, which was naughty. And in this case, in the second film, the go-to catchphrase is
nice.
No.
Oh,
Garbage Day. It's garbage day. So yes, I encourage you, if you have not seen
Santa is a garbage man.
Seen this, you don't need to watch the whole thing, but I would encourage you to go watch the minute-long clip of Garbage Day.
Oh man.
Because it is camp-y. But yeah, so two things that are obviously sad about this. One is the fact that, I mean, kind of like to your point about Jaws, which was like, the original is such a great film, or The Ring is such a great film. The original Friday the 13th is, or Friday the 13th. The original Strangers is great. I mean, all these films obviously had a wonderful, wonderful original provenance behind them, and it's terribly disappointing when they remake it and they just do such an awful, awful job. But again, the thing that really, really disturbed me about this was they just didn't even try.
No, it is a hallmark of, for flashback stuff that's like there's been a writer's strike and we still need to get an episode of MASH on the air. So
right.
Flashback.
Right.
They did it for Cheers. They did it for,
Although I
can't,
I honestly, can you think of a film where they jammed that much of the original or other source material into a film?
I think the closest thing that we might have is Three on a Meat Hook recycling stuff from another movie. Yeah. From
Satan's
Asylum. Yeah. But that's kind of like, we got some footage left over. We're just going to take this and throw it in.
Yeah. It wasn't integral to.
No.
Yeah. Woo. Do not see Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Stink. Oh, yeah.
Do watch the Garbage Day clip on YouTube. Yeah.
Liz, you're number one.
Okay. All right. So in 1999, a wonderful film called The Blair Witch Project.
There it is.
In the year 2000, a not great sequel called Blair Witch Book of Shadows came out. However, that is not the one that I am choosing.
Oh.
In 2016, director Adam Wingard from You're Next and The Guest decided he was going to put aside Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows, which, while terrible, it was not a direct sequel to Blair Witch. It tried to go in a little different direction. It failed. So Adam Wingard says, oh no, I'm going to make a direct sequel to the Blair Witch Project. I'm just going to call it Blair Witch. I'm going to announce it huge at Comic-Con because everybody had just known that he was filming something called The Woods and no one knew. And then he announced that it was a sequel to the Blair Witch. And he literally shit all over it and made Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows the better sequel to this movie.
Oh, man.
So,
I think that was a I've seen them both and they're both. No, I'm sorry.
They're both
No, I've seen
bad.
the Blair Witch one. It was absolutely awful.
It's awful.
Book of Shadows or the 2016?
No,
They're
Book
both
of
awful.
Shadows, I hate the term guilty pleasure because I don't really feel guilty about anything. I have questionable taste. So I kind of don't hate Book of Shadows.
I'm totally there with you.
I know it's not good, but Blair Witch 2016, I cannot stand because this guy really thought that he was making something great. And what he did was take everything great about the original Blair Witch and just literally shit on it. He shows the witch. He has teens that you actually hate more than Heather and Josh. Like, and Heather from the original was someone you love to hate. I can't, for such a great director who is coming off Your Next and The Guest to do this, also like 15 years after the original, another like, what are you thinking? I can't.
There are some times where you should just leave well enough alone, and this is, you suspect that someone's going to take another swing at this piñata because it made so much. The first one made so much money, but that was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
it was lightning in a bottle, and that's the magic of that film. And it kicked off that found footage genre, really. I mean, I know there were found footage before it, but Blair Witch, put that thing into overdrive, which is why Blair Witch Book of Shadows was capitalizing off of the success of Blair Witch and the mythology that had been built, but not the actual type of film or, trying to recreate the film. This was just like a exercise in self-indulgence of someone who I don't understand why he wanted to make it or thought that he could. But this movie,
what my theory is?
Terrible.
My theory behind why he wanted to make it was because he just got a drone. Because all I remember about this film was was just like constant use of drones, and I was like,
right.
This is kind of weird. Like, why do they keep flying drones like every 5 minutes?
No,
I think it was like, hey, drones are cool. Drones are going to be the new thing.
Drones are going to be it. That's it. And all movies are going to be with drones.
They should have.
Like a quick summary.
Yeah, they should have renamed it Blair Witch, the Drone Syndrome.
The drone syndrome, something. But like this one is about Heather's brother. He. Like some YouTube clip comes up that was like more lost or found footage, not lost footage, found footage from the original 3 out in Burkittsville, Maryland. So he and his friends go out to the woods, stumble upon the little things hanging from the trees. They like to try to do the same tropes, but they ruin every single one of them. Everything that was magical about the first movie is just trampled on in this one. The actors, they're not bad actors, but boy, are their characters worthless.
Yeah.
You don't care about any of them. Maybe I'm just like a one step short of yelling, "Get off my lawn" to these kids. But I was like, man, they are the worst. So,
and the witch was terrible looking too. I remember that.
Yes. You're going to show the witch and then make it really crappy, like CGI. Come on. I hate this movie. I hate it.
Yeah, that was because one of the beauties of the first Blair Witch is you never. Yeah, I mean it's not just don't show much of it. They didn't show it at all, and
right.
They didn't show anything.
And there are sometimes, and by necessity, they didn't have any money to do a good witch, but it worked, and I think you keep it that way. I mean, that's just.
This just goes to show you that you don't need money; you need creativity. Money's not going to hurt you, but in this, they had no creativity because they took a story and just tried to like revamp it for, I guess, millennials or something. And they had a lot of money and it didn't work at all. And I don't know. I don't understand what the team behind this movie was thinking.
Well, and I think this is also, it brings into question for all these films. It's like, really, you needed to do a sequel and you're going to treat it like this. Right. Because it's like, the greatness of the original ones is they're original.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And unless you can expand the story somehow in a meaningful way, like, or you make it tangential like Exorcist 3.
Right.
Well, and I was excited when this came out because I was like, oh my gosh, I love Your Next. I love The Guest. Too. I love Blair Witch. This is going to be awesome. And it was a big old disappointment.
Ugh.
Well, the good thing is Adam Wingard is, speaking of monumental, is moving on to King Kong versus Godzilla next year.
Oh boy.
Well,
okay. We'll see how that goes.
Rest assured, there will be plenty of drone footage.
Yeah.
Digital drone footage.
What if this one's all filmed from the ground, Mike? Then they're going to be the next thing is these little rovers. That's it. That's technology.
Yeah, pass.
All right,
Me
Eric, what
too.
do you got?
Okay, so this is I've got we talk about reboots, and sometimes this is a sequel to a successful reboot.
Okay.
This is The Hills Have Eyes 2.
Ooh.
So the first Hills Have Eyes is a brutal movie, which was, that was Alexander Aja taking
Yep.
on Wes Craven,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And it was pretty successful. I think it was a respinning of that tale, and that was a true kind of a reboot with better cameras, better production value, and it was, I think it's not a movie for everybody. It was mean and brutal, but it was scary, and I think it did pretty well at the box office, and so let's get back at it again. Hills Have Eyes 2. This one's atrocious. I can't believe I actually watched the whole thing because it was the kind of thing that just was like, showtime. I'm just sort of on the sofa and it's like, Hills Have Eyes 2. Well, I like the Alexander Aja one. This one's directed by Martin Weiss, and he's no Alexander Aja. And even further away from Wes
Martin
Craven.
Weiss, you're no Alexander Aja. Says the Scariest Things podcast.
So, if in the original, it was a family wandering off into the nuclear testing area in like maybe Alamogordo or somewhere in New Mexico, right? And there's a bunch of mutant hillbillies,
Right?
And they torture, rape, and devour and murder and just do horrible things to that family. In both the original Hills Have Eyes, apparently the Hills Have Eyes 2, which was the sequel to the Craven movie, also apparently is terrible, but I haven't seen that one.
So both sequels
Yep.
were bad.
Yeah.
But is this sequel a remake of the
No, I don't think
original
so.
sequel?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't believe so. I can't speak. I can't speak with clarity on that because I haven't seen.
I haven't seen it either.
The sequel to the Craven movie.
What?
But
The
this
original and the remake of the orial.
one, no, I've seen
I've
the
seen them
original.
both, but they're a little bridge too far for me. I'm definitely not watching the sequel.
Yeah.
Hillbilly horror.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So this follows a group of Army reservists in a training mission,
Right.
and we've seen this kind of trope done very well in movies like Dog Soldiers and Southern Comfort, right? They're weekend warriors. They're
Right.
not quite ready for prime time. They're horsing around. They don't have live ammo.
Right.
But in this case, they get sent out to go track down. There was an SOS from another platoon that was out doing just surveying somewhere out in this nuclear wasteland.
Right.
And they've gone silent. Of course, you can suspect what happened to them. But what we have here is a collection of useless National Guardsmen and women. They comprise the ranks of idiots, the oblivious, the immature, and the assholes of society. And they're thrust into a patrol into the New Mexico desert to respond to go find.
Did
to
you
go find
write
this guy. I did. They are
Idiots, assholes, and what?
the oblivious and the immature. And there are no likable characters.
That's tough talk.
There are no good acting performances. There is poor and confusing editing. There are some of the most egregious "let's split up the party" movements ever. Right? It's like, oh, well, let's go. I'm gonna go check out what that is. Falling. They get pushed by. Sometimes these soldiers die just because they're standing in the wrong spot and some mutant pushes them over a cliff. Right? It's just like absolutely no awareness of your situation. Nobody's really on guard. There's so many characters. They just get thrown into the meat grinder. This is it's a big body count movie. I think there's 15 people who get lunched in this thing.
So, how did you really feel about it, though?
Oh, I can't believe I watched the whole movie.
I'm a little unclear about what your real thoughts are.
This movie made me mad, right? But sometimes you just want to see it to the finish line. You think there might be something.
I can see the veins in his forehead right now.
Yeah, this is, and I think one of the reasons why it made me mad is it like another one of my least favorite movies in the genre, House of a Thousand Corpses. It invites you to root for the mutants. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It invites you to root for the kill.
Yeah.
And I've never been a fan of that. And,
Right.
And this is
Having watched the two, though, I think House of a Thousand Corpses is actually slightly better than this.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know, man. But they're both terrible.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I think there's also it goes for total lowest common denominator scares. Like a guy gets attacked sitting in an outhouse, sitting on the john, and he gets attacked from below.
Yeah.
Right.
And he gets half dragged into the toilet and gets chewed up from below. It's really
Gross.
it's nasty. It's just done for icky gross out gag kind of stuff.
So
Right.
is there a Hills Have Eyes Part 3?
No, they haven't. Not
Okay.
yet. Not that I'm aware of. They may have had something that kind of never hit even the streaming services.
Right.
But
What's the over under on Hills Have Eyes 3?
let's take.
Come on.
I'll
What,
do it.
just
I'll do a check.
guess without the internet. Just guess. Give me a guess.
20% over and under.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There may be there's something I can't say that I'd be looking for a Hills Have Eyes 3 at this point. It's this is
Eric is furious.
yeah. These are they should have been it should have been an even up fight.
Right.
These are soldiers who with machine guns. They should
Right. have
have been able to stand up to a few mutants, and they take there's a bunch of the mutants also die in hail of bullets, and it's a killing by numbers thing, and it was sloppy and ugly.
Mhm.
The movie sucks. The characters suck. It made me miserable.
So you're on the fence. you're kind of on the fence.
And
What you're saying is you'll give it another shot.
okay, so Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 12%. The Hills Have Eyes 2 that was based on the Craven movie, 0%.
Oh.
So
Wow.
that one, it's like
Snap.
apparently that one's even worse than this one. And I was like, whoa, that's a low threshold to sneak under right there.
All right, let's get to the positive.
Okay.
Let's get to the positive. Well, actually, let's recap the negative. Then we'll get to the positive.
Okay.
Liz, what were your
Get back in my
three worst sequels of all time?
Mine were The Strangers, Pray at Night, 1977's Exorcist 2, The Heretic, and Adam Wingard's 2016 Blair Witch.
All right. I had 2 Part 3s and 1 Part 2. Friday the 13th, Part 3, Jason Takes Manhattan. The Rings 3, Ring 3, Ring Rebirth, and Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 2. Eric, what about you?
I have the clumsy, inert, and poor graphics of Jaws 3 in 3D from 1983.
Wow, with editorial too.
Yeah. I've got as I just described, the ugly and insufferable The Hills Have Eyes 2 from
I think you said something a
2007.
little sharper than that.
Yeah.
and A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
All right.
Yeah. Three movies that will ruin your evening.
All right. Now
Yep.
let's get to the positive. Let's talk grave digging. Let's
Okay.
talk a little bit about what we have discovered since our last podcast. Eric, what have you discovered since our last podcast?
Well, this might
What have
make
what have
Liz
you
happy.
What have you dug up?
Oh,
So our friend Amy, who occasionally contributes for us, sent me a Facebook note that's like, "Hey, have you heard about the Blair Witch experience?" And
oh yeah, I did
so
see that.
it's the 20th year anniversary for the Blair Witch, and they're celebrating this year with a 3-day outing in the woods near Burkittsville, and you will rewalk the path of
And Burkittsville is in what state?
Maryland.
Yes.
Maryland.
And so if you wanted to follow in the footsteps of Heather and take a camera with you and reprise that scene and cry, it's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean this. Well, you can do that, and then they will actually show you the house and the cemetery.
Yep.
And you will get to stay. It's only $30.
Yep.
It is a screaming deal.
I know. That's cheap.
the Blair Witch Experience reached out to us on Instagram, and I said, "Hold us a ticket," and they said, "We will." But they're going fast.
They are going fast. So this is, you get to the camp out in the Patapsco Valley State Park in Maryland.
Yep.
And it looks like there's about room for 30 to 40 people.
Right.
So, Mike, you might want to get your plane ticket. This is happening from October 18th to the 20th.
Yes.
And
they promised to hold us a ticket.
It looks like a lot of fun.
Blair Witch Experience, if you are listening to the podcast, you promised to hold us a ticket.
You promised.
You promised. All right, Liz, what do you got for grave digging?
Okay, well, something that's going on here in New Orleans and in a couple other cities, I'm actually looking right now to jump in with that, is the, I guess, prog rock band Goblin is going to be performing the soundtrack to Suspiria here in New Orleans along with a screening. And they're also doing Deep Red in some cities.
We get Deep Red.
You guys get Deep Red? Okay, we get Suspiria here.
We get Deep Red at the Hollywood Theater in October.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
In October.
Okay.
Yep.
You're getting it October 3rd. You're getting Deep Red. Goblin doing the live score while they play the show.
Mike is getting his bootlegging equipment. We're gonna bring the Xenix UX 120 with us and some secret microphones to record this thing. Shh! Don't tell anybody.
That's amazing. New Orleans is getting Suspiria in the end of September, and it looks like they're going to be at a lot of different cities: Atlanta, Gainesville, Raleigh, up in Philly, and New York, Austin, Dallas, Kansas City, Detroit, Montreal, Baltimore. So check out. See if they're coming to your city to do either one of these scores, because that's going to be amazing.
It's the Suspiria Sance.
That's right.
Yep, it is. It is Suspiria Sance.
So if you're in Portland, you can look for me and Mike, and if you're in New Orleans, you can look for Liz.
And
I'll probably be there. And it looks like they're kicking it off September 14th in Atlanta.
And we might Eric and I might just abduct Goblin and have them on the podcast.
Well, I like that idea.
There you go. Mike, what have you got for your grave digging?
Well, I'm calling this the fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This, of course, is a new Netflix film called. They just released it today. It is called Eerie, and it is released under the moniker tagline. It has some people sleeping with the lights on. I watched the trailer, and it looks pretty solid. It looks really, really solid.
And then they Netflixed you.
And then, well, I haven't watched it yet. It just came out today.
Okay.
It just came out. I think they just put it up today. It is called Eerie, EERIE. So check back soon, because I am the ultimate sucker, like sucker with capital S, stamped right on my forehead for Netflix horror films. So check back, and I will tell you if Eerie is indeed all that. And
whether Mike is going to come back glowing about this thing, or if he had to take one for the team.
Yeah, hopefully it won't be like The Silence.
Yeah.
So,
which you stuck around for, and I made it about 10 minutes and said, nope.
That's the beauty of actually watching streaming stuff, is you can bail without any guilt.
Yep.
It's harder to bail from a theater that you've paid $14 to see.
Or bail with
I totally agree.
The VHS copy that you got at Movie Madness.
Right.
You have to kind of see it through to the end.
Yes, that's true.
All right, Eric, take us out with tagline tonight.
Okay, so I am taking a tagline from one of my movies that you shouldn't see. This is, and again, this is from A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. And keep in mind the fact that there was this nasty homosexual subtext that the screenwriter was just using as a cudgel on the poor actor. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. The man of your dreams is back.
Oh no.
Oh, brother.